Oh, oh, looking at the conference. Okay, the poll. Hey guys, hope we all had a good coffee break. If we did not get that Starbucks, our team, can you hear me? You can? Okay, I think so. Yes. Amazing. Okay, thank you, Donna. Looking at the poll, primary mode of communication. Yeah, email. Email is pretty huge, that one. I definitely would say that. But hope you all got your Starbucks vouchers. If not, they're coming, I promise. So as we hop back in, I would love to talk about the renewal process. I kind of mentioned it in the beginning during my brief, is that we focus a lot on the renewal process because it is so vital. I talk to insurance agents every day as I'm in sales. And one of the keynotes that I hit on that really sparks their interest is renewal. They're like, how do I do it more effectively? How can I do it? And so that the process works for me versus me having to work for the process. And that's really what we focus on. In terms of renewals, you need to directly proportion it to retention because growth is dependent on retention, 100%. So if you have 10 customers, that's $500. If you retain 0 of them and you get 10 new customers, you didn't make any money. You just kept and stayed where you at versus you keep those 10 customers and you gain 7. It's a whole different ballgame. But kind of like I mentioned, retention is dependent on growth, but at the same time, having that retention, having that growth automated is such a big part in how we are taking the game to the next level, how InsuredMine can take your agency to the next level. Because spending that time, I mean, as I hear from almost every agent I talk to, time is money. If they could save 5% of time, if they could renew 5% of more clients, where would your agency be today? How could that impact your revenues? How could that impact your day-to-day life? And it's pretty significant. So yeah, just focusing on how we can automate those processes. We're going to have someone come talk here in a second about that. His name is Damon Cook. He's going to kind of show us what his process looks like, why it's important to him specifically, and how we can all learn to automate our renewals because as is important. Damon, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can, sir. I can. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thanks for hopping on and showing us a little bit about how you operate.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, floor's yours.
Huh? Am I upside?
Yeah, Damon, you are upside down.
That is hilarious.
Well, I was going to start off with, I'm not very tech savvy, and this kind of shows proof that I'm not very tech savvy. How in the world I did that, I don't have a clue.
That's okay. It keeps it spicy.
I wanted to see the new Batman film anyway.
Yeah, there you go. So one of the reasons, and I want to say this to everybody at InsuredMine, thank you so much for everything you've done for me and helped me out in all my processes. I really do appreciate it. You can go to the next slide. I'm with a company called TWFG. I'm just a branch of them out of the Woodlands, Texas. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm a small little branch. I'm a PNC brokerage that I would say about 60% is personal, 40% is commercial. And right now it's just me. So one of my biggest issues that I had was following up with my renewals because I like to keep in touch with all my clients, and I did call them before every single renewal. And I went over all their numbers and everything along those lines. You can go to the next slide. That's kind of what I just kind of touched base on what I do. But keep it up with my renewals. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so one of the reasons why I went to InsuredMine was I needed a way to automate my renewal process to where I could get to the clients and touch them to where it felt like it was me contacting them and it wasn't just an automated system type of deal. Because every time I go over renewal, go to the next slide real quick. I go over a little spreadsheet like this with them. And what this is showing me is The top shows me what their original premium was with me, then how much we saved them the first time, and then what they paid over the years. And then if I had to reshop it, I went back in there and showed them at the bottom right there. It's how did I shop them more? Where could I save them some money? But if somebody was going up, just up at the top, it talks about here's what your current rates are and here's what your renewals are. Well, when I look at that, if the premiums went up more than about 7%, that's typically when I was always reshopping everybody and doing whatever. Well, now what I'll do is if it goes up 7%, I stick them into a label. So go to the next screen real quick and I'll kind of show you how my process works on that. Is that okay? So in step 1, 50 days before that renewal goes out, it sets up a little card for me and says, hey, you need to look for any duplicates, because we all know that somebody might have their home come effective on 4/1 and their cars are effective on 4/10. Well, I didn't want them getting the same automation going back and forth. So in that time frame, I go in there and say, okay, how many deal cards do I have for that individual? And I would make it to where they only have one. And then 5 days later, it steps into step 2 over here. And then in step 2, they get an email at 45 days out. It says, hey, look for your renewal. It's coming out in 45 days. So in 45 days, okay, great. Because we always have those clients, or I always had the clients that would call if it was 35 days before and they'll want to talk your ear off and they want to talk to you again and back and forth. So that's where I was wasting a lot of my time, either trying to get a hold of them, saying, hey, we've got this renewal coming up, or them calling me in the middle of something else going on and I've got to drop everything and get to them. So I was kind of prepping them at 45 days. Hey, look for what I'm going to be looking for. Then 15 days later, I have another email that comes out that says, hey, I'm going to be looking at your stuff in the next couple of days. I will be getting back with you. So then it goes to my step 3 right here. And then in step 3, it pops up. It creates a task form. The task is look at this policy, see how much it's gone up. I plug my numbers into my spreadsheet. At that point, now I know what to do. Okay. So in step 3, what I'll do is I'll label this individual. Either the rates have gone up and we need to stay, or the rates have gone down and we need to stay, or I've remarketed your account. Now, anywhere inside of this stage 1, 2, or 3, if they contact me in between there and I want to stop the automation, I take it to my stage 4. And then I'll stop the automation because now I've got to create my own little thing and set up a time for them. If you'll go to the next slide real quick, and then I might go back a slide as well here in a second. Okay, so on my labels, what I was just talking about, prices went down, but I'm going to stay. Prices went down. Let's see here. Remarketed the account. Prices stayed the same. So I'll put it inside of there. Now, on each one of those labels, the first thing that goes out is a ringless voicemail. Is it Slybot? I believe it's through. And then a day later, they'll get an email from me saying, hey, I've looked at your stuff, and depending upon which label it is, we can place this somewhere else. Or you're pretty good where you're at. But if you have any questions or if anything's changed, set up a time on my calendar and we'll set something up. Now, what I've noticed is those individuals are really using that calendar a lot versus calling me, which is great because now I can prepare for them when they call. And it's making it a lot easier for me and saving me a lot of time through those renewals. And then I'm trying to think. So it went from the ringless voicemail, an email, a text, and then another email. Hey, how does your renewal look to you? And so on and so on. That way, after I've had that renewal, or that when those renewals are coming up, I can tell them, I called you, I emailed you, I texted you, I did whatever. What else would you like me to do to get in contact with you? And I think the last gentleman was talking about if there's a bad email. That's another thing that was kind of nice because Now I'm finding out 45 days in advance that I have a bad email, so I can call them and say, "Hey, what's your email address now?" So it kind of keeps my my book, and not my book, my data a little cleaner as well. But as I'm doing that, I'm seeing some really, really good responses from the clients, and it's making it a lot easier working with these clients. Just because they're setting their own times up with me, and I can look at it before then, and then we're done. Does anybody have any questions on that? Did I go too fast? I know I'm kind of a fast talker, so. And kind of like I was saying, it's cut down a lot of my time. They book on my calendar, and it seems like my communication is a lot better with my clients. But really, it has been kind of a game changer for me, because it saves me probably 3 hours a day versus what I was doing before. Let me see.
Hey, Damon, I actually have a question. So you kind of mentioned what you used to do before InsuredMine. What was that? What did that process look like? Was it
okay? Yeah, I'm sorry. So yeah, before I would basically say, okay, I've got a client coming up. I had something that just reminded me 30 days in advance. Hey, got a renewal come up? I would look at the renewals, and then I would put it in my spreadsheet, and I would call the client and say, hey, this is kind of where we're at. Well, when I would do that, I would call them, leave them a message, and they would call and leave me a message, and we would kind of go back and forth. Or they would happen to call me when I have a client in the office or something. And so, like, literally, I was wasting a lot of time trying to chase them down to go over that. Just to say, hey, let's talk about this. Oh, okay. So that's where a lot of my time is cut down, is just trying to get a hold of them to set the time up to get it done. Does that kind of answer the question for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once you get that time back, you can actually utilize it for you. I mean, actually, instead of having to do that. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's awesome to see the progression, regardless of, the client or how they want to be interacted with, is awesome, because spending that time is almost monotonous.
Oh, completely.
Perfect. Thanks, Damon. Thanks, Jake. If you guys have any questions on your renewal process or ways you can automate it in InsuredMine, go ahead and leave it in the chat. I'm going to go over the resources that we've given you and some of the settings on how to begin your renewal automation process. Let's go the other way. So first, check out your pipeline settings. So InsuredMine has an automation to auto create deal cards. By default, it's 60 days prior to the policy's expiration date, but you can change that to, like Damon has it, at 50 days. You can also separate your personal and commercial renewal deal cards in the pipelines as well. Damon mentioned that he merges the deal cards, or he will look for duplicates. So you can do that in InsuredMine from your pipeline. You'll just select the 2 deal cards that you'd like. You'll hover next to the title of the deal card and find the checkbox, and then you'll click merge. It'll ask you which one is the primary deal card, and it'll map all content from one into the other. And then this is a snapshot of Damon's spreadsheet that he is using or was using before. So he has a log of all of the inactive policies or prior policies that the customer has had and how much they have paid. So, and then he takes an average of all of that. So if he sees there's a 7% increase, but over the last 5 years, it's all been around the same amount, he'll then decide, okay, you should actually stay with your carrier, because although it was a big jump from last year, 2 years ago, it was in that same range. So that's the importance of having that log. In InsuredMine, it'll keep track of that. So you'll have your active policies, your inactive policies, and then future policies. And those future policies are synced with your AMS. So they're going to auto download into InsuredMine. And they're going to be inside of your renewal deal card. So when you have your renewal pipeline, inside of it, the deal card itself, you'll be able to see the history of the premium amounts. I see a few questions. I'll get to those in a second. In the workbook, we've given you 2 different workflow options. The personal renewal, which is what Damon has shown us. There's a video to watch so you can set it up and see how it works with the labels. For commercial renewals, a lot of people don't set up automations for the commercial renewal just because a lot of things are changed, or you have to get you have to verify a lot more information. So they will set up their commercial renewal pipeline as a countdown until the renewal process, and then until the renewed date. And then they have a checklist added into each one of the timed stages. So 30 days before the commercial renewal, what needs to be done. At 100 days before the renewal, you need to call the customer to see if they need to update any of their information. So we've given you those 2 workflow options there. And then the resources. So we've given you a list of the labels that Damon uses. So the premium increase above the threshold, it's decreased and renewed and cancellation. We've given you some renewal templates, so 8 of them, including the cancellation email and text message sending to the customer. That also can work for if the customer has a non-payment, you can send that message to them. And then last are the automations. So just by having your InsuredMine account, it's going to create your renewal pipeline for you. We do have some renewal task templates. If you let us know, we can build that in your account for you. And then last is our renewal engagement automation. So you can decide whether you want to send your policies coming up for renewal through the marketing piece, which is engagement, or you can set it up in your pipeline. So as soon as those deal cards are created, it'll trigger a message to the customer saying your policy is up for review. Damon has his set up in his pipeline. A lot of the commercial accounts, they'll have them set up in engagement. So you guys can decide what you'd like there. I'm going to check the chat for any questions. How can you easily identify which one is the primary card? So on the renewal pipeline, you just would pick whichever one that you would like. The renewal deal cards are created based upon the coverage or the category and the date of that category. So you might have a home deal card for Andrew, and then you might have an auto deal card for Andrew. So it doesn't matter which one is the primary, you'll just map them into one. So it's just combining the deal cards. You're welcome. Okay, any other questions about the renewal process? Damon, I'm getting some questions if you can share your Excel file.
Yeah, that's fine.
With us on how to keep track of
I have no problem with that. And then,
Jimmy, I see your question. I believe, is he talking? Sorry, my bad.
No. And then one other thing I did leave off that I didn't say anything about, when I send out a voicemail or an email or a text, it's a personal one. It doesn't look like, it's not nothing flashy or anything like that. It looks like I wrote it. It's like, hey, Jimmy, your renewal's coming up. But I try to make it look like I'm actually sending that email right then, and I thought about it. It doesn't look like an automated. Does that make sense, Kara?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Perfect.
I have a call in 10 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Damon. You guys can still continue leaving your questions in the chat if you need. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next piece, which is the opportunities. So cross-selling and upselling. So like Miriam and Gary had said, that anytime you have the chance to communicate to the customer, like if your email has bounced or if your policy's up for renewal, those are opportunities to where you can cross-sell or upsell to them. So InsuredMine auto populates a lot of this information for you under monoline. So monoline is a customer that only has one type of policy with you. And the saying goes, if I only have one coverage with you, then I have less stickiness to you. The more I have, the less likely I'm going to leave you. So the goal is to get more coverages and more policies with that customer. And the best way to do that is by cross-selling to them. So under the opportunities module, you can pull a list of all of your upcoming renewals. You can filter these lists by the agents, by the carriers, and by the different types of coverages. You also can pull a list of X dates. And under the cross-sell tab, it'll tell you 50 customers only have auto, 30 customers only have home. And so then you can say, okay, well, I should run a home, no auto cross-sell campaign. And then under the mono line, it'll give you that report of which customers only have one line of business with you. So the opportunities tab, check it out, explore it. This is a good way to kind of decide the priorities of your upselling and cross-selling. Some larger agencies, they have partnerships with different carriers. And so they're going to want to push a certain carrier with their customers, or they have a quota with a carrier. And so this is also a good place to run that report of, I have, most of my home policies are with farmers compared to with Dairyland. The resources that we've provided for you for cross-selling and upselling, of course, it's the data itself. So we're giving you those 4 data tabs. We've given you 12 different types of cross-sell emails to send out to your customers. There's cross-sell home, cross-sell auto, life, and even pet. And then let's say the customer does not renew with you, which we don't want. But if they do, the goal is to put them back into your funnel and still keep your name at the tip of their tongue. So when it is time for them to actually renew, they have still heard of you and you're still fresh on their mind. So we've given you some inactive client messages to send to the customer. A lot of these inactive client messages or email templates can also be used on a lost deal reason. So for example, a lot of people don't go with an agent because they say they think the premium is too high and they think the agent controls the premium. So communicating to them during their policy period, premium tips, saying these are the factors that will increase or decrease your premium amount besides the things that they can't control. But if they see you as the expert in insurance, they feel like you care and you're communicating to them the difference between something, that has more stickiness than just pushing a promotion. I'm going to check the chat for questions. Oh, Stephen, I'm glad you like the templates. Perfect. If you guys have not received the templates, if you can drop your name in the chat at the end of our session today, Montserrat will share them with you. Okay, we're going to push a poll to you all. And we're waiting for Tucker. He has to finish up a call real quick. So I think this is a good opportunity for Rajan to come on, and he's been pretty excited these last few days about this conference. So Rajan, any insights or feedback you can tell the people?
Well, first of all, thank you, Kiera, for conducting this. I'm getting a lot of offsite feedback from a lot of folks all around, this is very helpful to everybody, what I'm hearing. So which is great, this is all we want, right? So one of the core aspect of running this 2-day conference, and again, we have been planning this for almost 3 months now, was to not only showcase some of the super users how they are using it from different perspective, but also to create all these use cases and these thoughts in the mind of people of okay, how can I get more out of the system? And one of the criticism, if I may say, with a lack of word, is the system becomes overwhelming. And it's true. It's true that, but what is its weakness is also its strength. It's overwhelming because it has a lot of capability. And you want a lot of capability because if you do not have this, then you have to go to the other system. If you do not have that, you have to go to the other system. And once we bring all of this, now you complain, hey, you have too much. So I know I will never win against you guys, and that's okay. But at the same time, what we are also trying to do is how do I make that user experience better? How do we make some of the functionality more streamlined in perspective to your user flow? So one of the things post-event I would encourage you guys is to continuously engage with Kiara, Montserrat. I'm anyways always there to tell us, document, do it on a paper napkin, scribble something of flow and say, hey, this is how I'm going and it is taking me in a roundabout way. What can we do to improve? And one thing for sure, if one thing we have done right in this last 4 years is listening to you and reacting to it. The more we hear from you, the better we have an opportunity to smoothen that out. I know this is a lot of ask from you guys in this last several years that you have invested in us, not only by just subscription, but by your time, your commitment, your future is aligned to this product. And we take that very seriously. So every day we are working on things. It is only from the design perspective of, hey, how Jamie would be thinking, how Susan would be thinking about this, how Jennifer is using this. So that's the center point of always what we try to accomplish. With that being said, so number one, keep that communication flow going with us. But now you also know several of these guys. I know, I do not believe all of you who have joined the sessions are part of our Facebook group. So I would, one of you please drop a link to our Facebook group. I would highly, highly encourage each of you to join that group. Why? Because there is an opportunity to engage. Drop in your question, drop in your suggestion. If you are creating that, thank you, Kiara. If you're creating a particular kind of a workbook or you're creating a spreadsheet, feel free to share with others. Like, hey, kudos to Damon earlier today that he is willing to share his spreadsheet. Jennifer, she has been asked multiple times on her playbook to be shared. So all of that is just wonderful opportunity for us to engage together. This is what we want. And, I was not joking with them when I said, I literally felt like crying yesterday. And it is overwhelming for us. Why? Because I remember the day when we started this 4 years ago, right? I think it was our second webinar. And I'm sharing this, nobody knows except our internal folks. This is an internal joke. When I did that webinar, I had 2 guys and 1 guy left in a beginning, and the second guy left that webinar in the half of that webinar. So literally, I did that whole webinar without a single audience. And from that point to having 360 guys joining this one, it's been a journey. And that is all because of, you guys have consistently, invested in us with your time, with your energy, with your patience, and all of that, obviously. And we did some good. Kudos to us for putting this wonderful team of, Kiaras, the Monserrats, the Paulas, the Sneha, Tucker, all of these guys have done a remarkable job of what we are learning, and then we are reflecting back. With that, again, I can just go on and on, but I know there's a lot more to do here. So thank you all for being a part of this. We could not have been where we are without you guys. So let's continue on that. This is just the beginning. Back to you, Kiara. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Virginia. Thanks, Stan.